All right. Here is one from Steve who says, "Hey Pat and
Love you.
Wooly, the recent Dead Space and Metroid Prime releases have me battling my brainworms, and I hope you can help. What
Hmm.
qualifies a title as a remake versus a remaster versus a re-release versus a reboot? It's starting to become a serious concern, like Shadow of the Colossus, FF1, RE4. All these games have multiple versions and varying degrees of fidelity and content, as in popular classics. They're probably doomed to receive further releases even in the years to come. Should the industry standardize these terms and label them accordingly, or do we need to forever remember the year of the game's release as a part of the title, like Doom 2016? Okay.
I just saw somebody in the chat just yell out "soft C boot," and I'm like, yeah, perfect. What a
Okay.
perfect.
So yes, it's marketing, and yes, like there are people who lie and or misuse these things. But to me, when they're not being misused, there are clear definitions for what they
I would
are.
say that's right. Yeah. I'll
A
take it away. So your re-release is, hey, it is relatively unchanged.
It's a port.
It has been ported. So a re-release would be, for example, every version of Resident Evil 4 to date, right?
Yeah, the end goal was to recreate the experience played elsewhere. If anything changed, it was unintentional because fidelity is the number one priority.
Right. Your remaster is it's also a port. However, they have gone in and they have actually with the guts. They want it to run faster. They're going to clean up some textures. They're going to widescreen it. They're going to, do all the things to clean it up and have it pretend to be a video game released in the year that you are actually going to purchase it. A remake is more than that. I would say a remake is the point in which large scale assets are being completely replaced.
Yeah. The overall game is still doing the same thing, and the events are more and there might be extras and things changed about the combat and so on, but for the most part it's the same game redone. A reboot can just be a completely different game that has nothing beyond like the titular like names of people and or things, but there doesn't have to be any common threads whatsoever, right?
So, if you want the series that you can look at that has all of these, look at Resident Evil, and we'll take Resident Evil 1. Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut is a re-release that has slightly different music. Or the Saturn port would be a re-release of Resident Evil 1. However, then you have Resident Evil Remake, which is a ground up complete asset, like brand new game, 100% new asset, new sound effect, new mechanic, everything, but it's built on the old blueprint. Then you have the re-release of Resident Evil Remake. It is actually a remaster on the PC and modern platforms many years later, in that it is the Resident Evil Remake, but it's actually just been cleaned up and had widescreen added to it and modern graphics options.
Yeah. I think a lot of these names also get a little bit more clarified if you think about them in context of film, right? If a film gets re-released, they grabbed the old 16 millimeter or so, they hit the reel, and then they're putting that back out so that you can see it in the state that it was released in the same aspect ratio. If you're seeing a remaster, you're probably seeing something that either is adjusting the quality of the actual film. They could be using music that's like a better recording of the same music, better, clearer audio for at the time, and they're taking the same pieces and using better quality versions of the same pieces and putting them back together In some cases, they'll upscale, go to 4K or
Hey
whatever.
man, it's in Technicolor now. Can you fucking believe that?
Exactly, and that's the mastering process. Remastering refers to the mastering process of bringing all the assets together. The assets are now sharper than they could have been when we first combined them back in the 70s. A remake will be we hired new actors and
Built new sets.
and filmed a new version of the same events unfolding the way they did in that last movie. And then the reboot is this is a brand new movie, and the main character and the place the story takes place in are the same, but everything else is different.
And then a soft reboot is mostly the same events, but it somehow contains the old continuity. And then a soft C-boot is a sequel to the old continuity that still technically retains it while mimicking the old events, but still technically remaining within canon.
Shout out
So,
Star
like,
Trek.
the new Halloween movies are actually soft C-boots.
As Star Trek as well. Yeah.
It's fucking
And then,
stupid.
but it didn't exist until, as far as I know, I might be wrong on this, I don't think that existed until the Star Trek moment happens and you go, oh, fuck, they're connected, right?
Yeah, that is a soft C-boot. You're right, yeah.
That's where that concept even came along. That, as far as I know. Yeah. So, anyways,
It's like the worst term in the world. Oh my god.
when you put these in that kind of context, it kind of lines it up a little bit more. But that doesn't mean people are going to use them honestly or not irresponsibly. Especially since we're in a world where people also start like just copying other things. So like, the Matrix Reloaded comes out, and now fucking 18 other things are using Reloaded as a word for sequel, you know, or similarly Revelations, you know, is as you throwing that after the end of your franchise as a word for like the big one this time. Like, people still do that. It's still super weird to see Reloaded used outside of like Matrix context, because
I was about to say outside of the pirate copies of film,
because it's also like, you know, directly referencing the code nature of the thing they're discussing. And then, you know, well, yeah, there's Metallica albums, but anyway, all this to say that and then marketing word can barely be trusted these days.
To go to the heart of this person's question, Metroid Prime's Remaster is the most confusing because the title of that game is wrong. That is a Metroid Prime remake. That is not a remaster. It is a total asset redo.
It's called remastered.
It is called Metroid Prime Remastered.
Yes.
And it is not.
It should be called remake. Yes. Yeah. Okay. If it's new code, it's a remake. If it's old code but be run in a, you know, environment that can run it natively, then that's a remaster.